Good evening, Jess. How are you feeling as these results unfold? Can you hear me, Jess Phillips? It's Christian Murphy here.
I can hear you, sorry. It's just totally devastating, isn't it? It's totally devastating that all the people that I see every day, they're going to have nowhere to turn. And, I mean, I should say that thing where we all pretend that we're going to wait and see if the results are better than we thought, but it feels like a kick in the stomach.
I remember watching Jess Phillips's passionate and emotional reaction to the news that her party were on course for their most crushing election defeat since 1935. And as is very often the case when I hear her talk or watch her performances, I experienced a gut feeling that something just didn't quite add up. It's like the way she insists on attaching her name to the word truth all the time. It's almost as if she's overcompensating for something, or struggling with imposter syndrome. Sometimes it feels like you just couldn't really make her up, unless, of course, you could. And that's when it struck me. What if Jess Phillips is a massive hoax? What if she's really some sort of deep cover agent of comedy chaos? Or an alt-right troll with a legendary long game vision of how to entirely ridicule the left? Now, fair enough, some of you may be beginning to wonder where exactly I keep my tinfoil hat. But before you dismiss my admittedly unlikely theory entirely out of hand, all that I ask is that you consider the facts as they stand. The truth about Jess Phillips is that for a politician who has personally profited from 2 books about her particular approach to speaking the truth, her truth does sometimes seem to be rather convenient, conflicting, and very confusing indeed. She's a champion of equality who has a rather odd understanding of the meaning of the word.
But they don't realise that equality isn't just about pushing someone forward, it's also about pushing some people back.
Yes.
Take a step backwards.
Yeah.
She's a champion of free speech who wants to introduce onerous online regulation.
We need to regulate the internet in far greater. There's the head of Google saying if we put onerous regulations on it, Google will move out of the UK, and I'd just like to say, see you later.
And who has used her own powerful political platform to personally pressure social media providers to shut down people she doesn't like.
I would personally like to see further action on getting rid of people from these platforms who we know. And actually, we could really hurt them by damaging their brand, by taking it off air. I'm a defender of the freedom of speech. It is not the freedom to insult and silence people like me.
She's a champion for victims who sometimes appears to grossly exaggerate and exploit her own victim status for personal and political gain.
I mean, to all the people who might be listening to this who defend me, stop it, because all I see is your defence, because I obviously have an algorithm on Twitter that doesn't allow me to see really any of the abuse anymore. Right. But when people are being like, you leave her alone, she's one of us. I'm like that. What have they said? I don't know what these people have said.
She's the chair of a parliamentary oversight committee for domestic violence who can display a shocking lack of empathy towards the very vulnerable people that she serves.
It happens to men too, you know. Do you want
The
a point?
men.
It happens to men as
The
well.
men.
Oh,
The men.
yeah, okay.
She claims that Brexiteers, brocialists and men's rights activists have subjected her to huge torrents of abuse and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rape threats, and she does sometimes exaggerate.
We knock on lots of doors, and I knocked on 25,000 doors in that 6-week period, and 12 times somebody mentioned Brexit to me.
She's a moral guardian and policer of language who sets a very different standard when it comes to herself.
I have used the word slut in a tweet, and in the old-fashioned senses, in that I don't have a very clean kitchen, and my mum used to call me a slut.
She's called for anyone championing acts of rape or violence to be barred from public office for life.
How can somebody say that they would rape me if forced and be a legitimate candidate in an election?
and has herself championed threats of violence that shut down political rivals, live on BBC One.
My moment of the week was that he tried to hold like a meeting in a Beefeater, but protesters meant that he couldn't even muster a meeting in the Beefeater because the Beefeater had to stop his reservation. So, you know, the good British people are standing up against the sort of amoral sort of trolls.
If I keyed in our town.
It's not your town, is it?
It's not your town either.
Public space.
But how do you know?
Public space.
Because you're from fucking Swindon.
Because
I think people like you need to be closed the fuck down.
And of course, along with Tom Watson, Labour's self-appointed pedo finder general, she repeatedly championed false allegations of child rape that just so happened to have been made by a member of the Labour Party against her direct political rival, the now former MP for Birmingham Yardley. False allegations that led to thousands of threats of death or violence that compelled her opponent and his family to move to a secret location with advanced security measures. Observing that, I am not myself aware of another situation where members and supporters of a political party have promoted such allegations in such a public manner, essentially arming the villagers with torches and pitchforks and setting them off on a lynching. Disgracefully, both Labour and Phillips have refused to as much as comment on his family's call for an apology for the harm that has been done.
My lovely constituency joined me in rising above entitlement, childishness and bitter jealousy. Better than that.
She's tougher than most men, but always seems to lobby for special status exclusively for people that look a lot like her.
I'm uncomfortable with this idea that this kind of protesting is particularly harmful to women. I think that suggests that female MPs aren't as cut out for this as male MPs are. My all-time... I'm trying to finish.
Please, I'm tougher than half the bloody people in there, and almost all of the men.
Point. Someone just said, especially women will be put off, and I'm interested to know why.
Her dream job is Home Secretary of this country, and she wants the police to criminalise people for making poor taste jokes.
There's been an awful lot of talk about whether I would or would not even rape Jess Phillips. I've been in a lot of trouble for my hardline stance of not even raping her. I suppose with enough pressure, I might cave. But let's be honest, nobody's got that much beer.
And she claimed that someone was trying to coercively control her from his computer. And then again, she has been known to catastrophise and act in incredibly irrational ways.
In my late 20s and 30s, I still suffer with anxiety. Anxiety that has made me incredibly irrational. So fear of really wild bad things. So I will catastrophise very badly. I will assume that if my children are 20 minutes home late that they're dead.
Yeah. I am very emotional, but not just for me or for the Labour Party, or I'm emotional for the people the Labour Party was invented to help. I am emotional that this has happened across the parts of the country that for lots of us we have felt like they were never being listened to. You know, what is not to be emotional about?
And now, incredibly, she's somehow seen as a champion of ordinary people and a serious contender to be the next leader of the second biggest political party in the entire UK. So as ridiculous as that may seem to some, you have to concede that that's quite an achievement. And so I tip my tinfoil hat to a master hoaxer, or whoever's behind her, and say, well played to the Labour Party. You have been incredibly well played.
Equality isn't just about pushing someone forward, it's also about pushing some people back.
Yes.
Take a step backwards.
Can't you see it too? There's an elephant in the room.